By popular demand, we are back with this series, episode 3 of the best and worst fragrances from 5 popular brands. If you're new to this series, we're not talking about the best and worst fragrances of each brand, because a video like that, honestly, is a little bit disingenuous if you're asking me. Pretty much all the fragrances I own, I like to varying degrees, so therefore I'm not really going to be talking about any bad fragrances. I have my opinions on certain ones. I like some more than others, yes. But with this series, we're not talking about taste, we're talking about numbers. I use Parfumo.net, not sponsored, once again, to recount all of the fragrances I wear. I track my wearings daily, and I have been doing so for like 7 years now. Some of you guys think that's weird. I think that's pretty par for the course, especially as a reviewer. If I want to be honest with myself and with you guys in my content, I need to know what I'm actually wearing. So that's how I do it. I've been doing it ever since I started, and it's kept things running pretty smoothly. So what I've done is I've chosen 5 new brands, gone through my wearing catalog in Parfumo, and have selected the fragrances that I've worn the least and the most from each brand. So we have 10 fragrances to talk about. Let's dive right into it. The first house we'll talk about is one of my absolute favorite designer houses, and that is Hermes. Why do I love Hermes? Because they're actually, even to this day, making an effort of giving us interesting fragrances, not just following trends in order to get a portion of the market share. Yeah, they want to make money, and I hope they do. My worst Hermes, which is again not the worst, my least worn Hermes fragrance, is a newer one in my collection, and that's why I haven't worn it very much. I've only worn this 3 times. The last time I wore it was about a month ago, and it's Terre Parfum. I've had this for probably less than 6 months, and honestly, with as many fragrances as I have and as many as I continually get, 3 wearings in 6 months is actually a great track record. So this is a fragrance that I'm absolutely loving, and you can bet your bottom dollar, or your top dollar,
or all your dollars. Bet all of your dollars.
You can bet I'll be wearing this a whole lot more coming into the fall season, because it's perfect. If you know the original DNA, bitter, sharp orange, earthy, woody, dry, vetiver, some people say a little dirty. Sure, but there is a freshness here that's very masculine, very sophisticated. They take that and they richen it. It's a little bit more round, smoother, less fresh, and in some ways maybe more refined than the original. So those of you who found the original to be too sharp or too dirty, you might actually like this. Ironically enough, even though it's a parfum, it's in theory a more intensified version of the original. It might make it a little bit more palatable. So give it a try if you haven't already. If you've been squeamish about the DNA like I was years ago, give this a try. Terre Parfum. This was the subject of a recent YouTube short that I did talking about my top designer fragrance for the high heat, and I stand behind it. I saw a lot of people saying, oh, but Dior Homme cologne, it's great too. I have it, it's nice, but this is just better. This is Terre Eau Givrée. Yes, so Terre is kind of taking the cake as far as the fragrances I wear from the house. I love this line. What can I say? A lot of people claim that the original DNA is not present here. I disagree. That dry, bitter, woody vetiver is here, but it is definitely not in the forefront. This is more of a supporting role at this point, and most of what you're getting here is spices and dry, fresh, cooling citrus. Juniper berry, citron, which is like a dry lemon note, extremely fresh, cold, almost icy, with that bitter woody vetiver in the background supporting it. Some people claim 2 hours on their skin when they wear this. I'm sorry, it's just the nature of the game. Your mileage will always vary. I get easily 7 to 8 out of this. It's really no problem. Even on a super hot day, I can pretty much smell it around me pretty deep into the day. And I love it, especially in the heat. I've worn this 8 times, and the last time I wore it was just 5 days ago. So it has been kind of a regular in the rotation for this past summertime. That is Terre Eau Givrée. What a stunner. Let's move on to the house of Xerjoff. My least worn Xerjoff fragrance is a technicality because I haven't actually worn it yet. And you might be surprised because I've already deemed it as one of my favorite Xerjoffs.
I sure have. What you gonna do about it?
But this summer has been a brutal one. I have not reached for this at all this summertime, but coming into the fall, you can bet. You get the idea. I'm coming for your money. I am wearing this fragrance this fall. This is Zefiro from the 1861 collection. Again, no wearings yet, but definitely wearings to come. This is a beautiful incense fragrance. Fresh, resinous incense, but has a smoky, wispy quality to it. There is this very beautiful, almost white wine-like accord, kind of aromatic, but it is mostly cooling smoke, woods, a little bit sweet, a little bit mysterious smelling, elegant, a fragrance that works perfectly going into the evening. And for me, on my skin and my testings, it lasts a good while, so it will last into the evening and beyond. So more to come about Zefiro from Xerjoff. And many of you can probably already guess my most worn Xerjoff fragrance in my collection. I've worn it 8 times. The last time I wore it was 2 months ago, so just earlier this summer. This is Renaissance. Minty lemon lime with a lot of white musk, a little bit of an ambery warmth as it dries, even bringing a touch of sweetness, and it actually helps the fragrance to last a little bit longer. But it is mostly very bright, citrusy, without being overly tart or bitter or anything like that. It just smells clean, but there is a little bit of a classiness. The green quality in here I think really does help to make it that. That is Xerjoff Renaissance. We'll continue to love this one, still one of my favorites from the house, and you can tell by the numbers. On to the iconic house of Dior. This is a fragrance I truly respect. It's one I will have for a very long time, and it is a fragrance that I consider to be niche, even though it's from a designer brand. I did a whole video on that. You can check it out here. Eau Sauvage Parfum. Now, believe it or not, I've had this fragrance for maybe almost 3 years. The last time I wore it was a year ago, so just last year, but I've only worn it twice. Because it is kind of niche, to me, it's a little bit situational. This could be an everyday scent if you love it, but I have to be in a particular mood for this, and I wear it in particular occasions, a little bit more classy, when there's a little bit more warmth to the air, but not super hot. I'm gonna be dressed up at least a little bit, at least a collared shirt, maybe more. And when I want a bit more of a mature vibe. This is a mature scent personality. I'm not always in the mood for that, but I have been at least a couple times here. I recommend checking it out if you want an interesting, mature, but timeless scent profile from a house you know and probably already love. That's Eau Sauvage Parfum. And my most worn from Dior is
boring.
I'm not super excited to share this with you. I'm just being real. But the video must go on. My most worn Dior. I've worn this 19 times. The last time was just 2 months ago, and it was 2 months ago because I repurchased this fragrance after not having it or wearing it for 5 years. Yes, it's Sauvage Eau de Toilette. I don't really care for it. It is nice. I can't deny it's pleasant, and I do have good memories with it. But it is one of those fragrances that after about 3 hours on your skin, you're done with it. It hasn't gone anywhere. It doesn't really change. Yes, it will assure that you'll smell fresh and clean all day long. That's what it's for. I get it. But I want to love what I have on, so I don't reach for it that much, hence why it was out of my collection for so many years. I got it back just for a particular video. I think some of you missed that video. Check out my Dior Sauvage revisiting video. It was a very entertaining video, so check that out. I have a couple of other Diors that were this close to taking this spot. Dior Homme, my original 2011 version, I've worn 17 times. So that was so close, but not close enough. Even though I've hardly worn this recently, it still holds the top spot. That is Sauvage Eau de Toilette. Argos, let's move to the house of Argos. I've been a little quiet about Argos because they've been a little quiet. They had some new releases slated for earlier this year. There were some technical difficulties. They weren't able to release them as widely as they planned. So they took a step back, regrouped, and they are coming back with a vengeance this fall from what I hear. So stay tuned for more exciting stuff from Argos. But right now, my least worn Argos in my collection is perhaps, I would say, the most feminine out of all of the fragrances they have, aside from the Parfum, which is the most feminine. But this is right behind that. Not every guy's gonna love this. I do happen to find this scent personality kind of intoxicating to the point where I want to wear it, but I'm hardly in the mood for it. But it's beautifully crafted and it's actually pretty unique. This is called Pallas Athene. I've only worn this 3 times. The last time I wore it was about a year ago. I would like to revisit it this fall. This is such a beautiful scent. It's so rich. It is a rich, opulent, fruity floral, a big bouquet of florals like rose, like violet, hyacinth, maybe even some peony in here. The hyacinth I really love because it adds a bit of a green quality to the floral bouquet, which makes it kind of more realistic. It's like picking up a bouquet and you're not only smelling the flowers, but you're smelling the leaves and the stems as well. Mixed with some red berries that bring this kind of tart, juicy fruitiness to the scent, kind of the way it looks here. You have a touch of vanilla, which adds a little bit of a creamy sweetness. Overall, the scent is very smooth and floral. Luckily, not very powdery. And I might be a little bit more turned off if it was too powdery. So gonna keep coming back around to it. My wife tends to reach for this a little bit more than I do. But that is Pallas Athene. I do recommend getting a sample pack. If you're interested in this, guys or ladies, this is one you might enjoy. And my most worn fragrance from Argos. I've worn this 15 times. However, it's been 3 years since I wore it. I see you scratching your head. How can this be my top worn fragrance from Argos, but it's been years since I've worn it? Well, second place to this would be Triumph of Bacchus by just one wearing. It's only one wearing short. It would beat this out, but we've been in summertime, so I haven't been wearing it that much. But I will surpass this fragrance because I don't actually wear this anymore. I'll tell you why. This is Argos Pour Homme. I love this fragrance. This is the first fragrance that I ever received from the brand. I've loved it ever since. It is this green, woody, fresh, very classic kind of citrus aromatic green fragrance for men. Beautiful quality, so smooth, great integrity, lovely stuff. Only problem is the first time I wore this around my now wife, which 3 years ago is when we started dating, she told me it reminded her of a fragrance that one of her exes used to wear. Through some digging, we found out that that was Cool Water. Now, this doesn't smell like Cool Water. Maybe it's in that realm of Cool Water Green Irish Tweed. I can see that. It is different though, but nonetheless, it reminds her of that. So after that first wearing, I said, I'm never wearing this fragrance again. Again, not because it's bad, but I don't want to be a walking reminder. Don't take my experience as something to truly evaluate. Sample it for yourself. Get a discovery set. I'm going to have Argos linked down below, and you can always use the code FRESH10 to save some money on any purchase. Trust me, get a sample pack. Check out Argos if you've been sleeping this whole time. Wake up. And Cartier, another one of my absolute favorite designer brands. I love them for the same reason I love Hermes.
They don't give a damn.
They're going to do their thing. They're going to stick to their heritage. They're going to give us fragrances with substance and significance. None of this clubby trash. I should cut that out. Cut out the clubby trash part. Great. Moving on. My least worn Cartier fragrance. I have several. I have probably 10 or so. And this is one that I am not surprised this is my least worn. I don't dislike it. I don't really care for it that much. It is a little different. It doesn't smell generic or anything, but there's nothing super special about it. It's just kind of a light, easy breezy wear for the summertime. Maybe a little bit feminine. Nonetheless, nice stuff, just doesn't really suit me. This is called Insouciance. This is from a collection that came out a couple years ago called the Riviera's Collection. There's 3 fragrances in this collection. I have the other 2. The other 2 I like more than this. One of them I really like, but this one, it's just okay. If I'm not mistaken, this is kind of a violet-based fragrance. Sweet floral, not powdery though, a little bit green and fresh, maybe even a little bit watery. Yeah, a beautiful fragrance, very natural smelling, very realistic. Kind of smells like something you would smell in a forest, but it is very, very simple. What you get at the top is mostly what you get throughout. It's only gonna last you a few hours probably, but I can recommend it if it sounds good to you. If you want something very natural, check it out. Otherwise, nothing super special. I've only worn it one time, and that was 2 years ago. I wore it when I got it, haven't worn it since. But Grace has actually worn it several times, so she does enjoy this one, and I like it on her. And finally, my most worn Cartier. I was actually surprised by this. I did not know I'd worn this the most. Now, I haven't worn it a ton, but I didn't expect it to lead the pack. What I expected to lead the pack, believe it or not, was Declaration d'un Soir, which I've worn the same amount of times as this in total, but I didn't wear it quite as recently. It's been 7 months since I wore Declaration d'un Soir. I've worn it 6 times, and I've worn this 6 times, but it's only been 5 months since I've worn L'Envol. I didn't know this was my most worn. All my other Cartiers are probably hovering in that 4 to 5 range. I wear them all pretty equally, but this one just barely edges out. Now, I'm not mad that this is my top because it's a beautiful fragrance. It's very unique. It's not one that a lot of people are going to find super appealing, but most people will find this interesting. Violet leaf, green, fresh, cooling, almost cucumber-ish in a way, with some iris, slightly waxy, powdery, very slightly though, and a lot of honey, sweet, somewhat sticky, but still fresh honey. This is the Eau de Parfum, by the way. There is an Eau de Toilette that is a little bit more transparent, backed up by some woods. This is an elegant, handsome fragrance, even though it is so different. It's pretty unique. If you dress this up, it's one of those fragrances that just supplements you better when you are dressed more elevated. It just makes more sense, and it makes you stand out a little bit more. More to come this fall when I wear L'Envol from Cartier. Let me know if you dig it. All right, there's another in the books. Let me know what you think of these fragrances, if you've tried them or if you have them. There's going to be links in the description to check out all the fragrances I mentioned if you have not yet checked them out. And I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.